7-footers gang. What is up? What is up? Throw your sevens up.
Throw your sevens up?
You're going to need 2 hands.
That's a new one.
That
throw
is
your
a new
sevens
one.
up.
You know I've been working on my intro.
Throw your 5s up. I mean, throw your 7s up.
Throw your 7s up.
What's good?
Unless you try to go, boom.
No, let's not do that.
Are you kidding me?
But these are your 6 shooters, not your 7 shooters.
When you go like that, it's your 7.
Oh my
it's
God.
your 7.
Anyway.
Okay. What's up, 7 gang? What is up? So, Jenna Lemoncelli here.
Yeah, Jarod Hector, we're doing it.
We are doing it. We are getting into the nitty-gritty of Game 5 of the NBA Finals. And then talking about the future and so much more that has happened.
So much.
Because things got really emotional in Game 5. Now, let's talk about this here, okay? Everybody thought the Raptors were going to take Game 5. Warriors took it with, of course, a behind comeback, okay?
106-105.
106-105. 1-point game, Jarod.
It was.
1-point game. Tell me a little bit. Tell me what your takeaway was.
Well, about the game in general, look,
Yeah.
the Warriors themselves showed, what champions do, right? Their grit and all those adjectives and cliches that I hate using, but they're true, right? I mean,
true to form.
They performed like champions. What I will say is that, the Warriors were incredible, right? They shot 20 of 42 from 3, which is like 48%.
Knocked down threes real hard.
Listen, all that being said, they only won by 1 point.
Exactly.
And I know I always say a win's a win, but the way in which they played the game, and we'll get into all the particulars later, the Warriors almost gave the game away themselves, right? They were leading the entire game. Kawhi goes on his own mini 10-0 run in the fourth quarter. They're +6. You're thinking, hey, the Raps got this. And then the Warriors come all the way back, and then Draymond unexpectedly steps into the backcourt, turns the ball over. Boogie Cousins, offensive foul on the screen, on the moving screen for Steph. So look, what you're basically seeing is that this is a team that they're playing in the Toronto Raptors that is clearly very good. Every bit they're equal, if not more so. And look, as much as they wanted to win Game 5 at home for their fans, they still have 2 more chances to win this thing. And with what we're going to talk about eventually during this podcast, they know the team they're going to face now. There is no more looming wondering, is Kevin Durant going to play? Is he not?
Exactly.
So, and in the quarters and in the games that they've played without Kevin Durant, the Toronto Raptors have been the dominant team.
Oh, they have. And we will get down to it. But let's kick this off with the Golden State Warriors because there's a lot to get to here, okay? We enter the game. We have KD back. Everybody thinks it's going to be another sweep a little bit from the game. He's going to drop 40, things like that. Q2.
Right, yeah.
Q2. He's on fire.
Yep.
He's playing.
11 points in 12 minutes.
11 points in 12 minutes. He's on fire. He suffers an Achilles injury. At the time, we don't know. We think it's a result of the calf. He grabs his bottom leg, lower leg. Now, I said this to you before we recorded. He knew on his face
he knew right away.
that it was something serious was wrong.
Yeah.
Gets helped off the court by Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala, okay? Now, Doris Burke, we talked about this as well, gives an update. Now, she says, we don't really have an update because raw emotions are happening in the locker room.
Yep.
That's when you know there's problems.
Yep.
We're worrying. And he left the arena on crutches, walking boot, the whole 9. We don't know the severity of the injury. We're hoping it's not a torn Achilles, but that's what the Warriors fear. And then he'll undergo an MRI, and then we'll find out those results in the coming days. But talk to me about this injury a little bit here. Because he was on fire.
It's one of those things, and we talked about this on the last pod. And I said this to you then, and I'll repeat myself.
Yeah.
Or actually 2 pods ago.
Yeah.
I said Kevin Durant would not play in this NBA Finals. And that is because
you were right.
I spoke to someone close to the situation, and what was relayed to me was this injury is a little more severe than we originally thought.
Yeah.
Now, that person was not willing to go any further and give any more details, but what they were implying, I then inferred that, this is a serious situation, and with what he has coming up with free agency, with et cetera, it's just not, he is not doing himself any favors by playing on this injury. And that's sort of where it was and where I took it. And I wasn't the only person that heard this. Jalen Rose heard the same thing. A couple of the folks over at The Athletic, Zach Harper, heard something similar. So that was what I was operating under those beliefs. And remember, when they beat the Portland Trailblazers, what was the narrative? Oh, they don't need Kevin Durant. They're just fine without him. They swept the Blazers, all good. Okay.
Steph Curry's finally playing his
all
game.
Good. Everything's we are good to go. No need for KD. All right, cool. They have all that rest before the finals because the Raptors had to go deep with the Milwaukee Bucks. So we're like, all right, Warriors, we ready to play. They come out game 1, the Raptors win. They're like, okay, we were caught by surprise, whatever. The Raptors are faster than we thought. Cool. Game 2, the Warriors win, narrative switches, right? It's okay, the Warriors are back, blah, 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 all well and good. But what did I tell you after Game 2? I said, all that being said, all that hooting and hollering, Warriors were back to doing their thing, everybody zipping the ball, zipping around, cuts, assists, whatever. What was the situation in that game late with under a minute to go? The Raptors were down 1 possession. 1. The Warriors weren't up 12. It wasn't they weren't cakewalking to victory. It was 1 possession with under a minute to go, right? Okay, cool. So the Warriors go back to Golden State, to Oakland for the games 3 and 4. They figure, all right, we got what we wanted. We got our split in Toronto. We're going to go back to Golden State. We're going to take care of business at home, and then, we'll do what we got to do. Okay. They lose game 3. All right, no big deal. 2-1, whatever. We'll win game 4, go back 2-2, win game 3 win game 5 in Toronto, come back, win game 6, championship, blah, blah, parades, 3-peat, the whole 9. What happens? They lose game 4. They're down 3 games to 1 now.
Now they're panicking.
All right, and it was
they're shaken.
And the narrative was because it kept getting pushed back, and on the timeline it was like, okay, we expect Kevin Durant to join us at some point in the NBA Finals. Then it was, okay, at the midway point of the NBA Finals. Well, the midway points are on game 3 or game 4. He had a couple practices. He had a practice. It was not successful. Or he attempted to.
He had a practice.
He tried to that like Thursday prior to. It did not go well. As Jalen Rose reported, he did not play in that game, in game 3 or game 4. Right? Okay. You're down 3 games to 1. Then all of a sudden, the stories start coming out. The Warriors are frustrated and upset with Kevin Durant's situation. Klay Thompson and Kevon Looney and Andre Iguodala are all hurt, but they're battling through injuries. But the Warriors never came out and gave that support to Durant in the public-facing media saying, we know he's doing everything he can to work his way to get back. We're going to have to just do what we can, right? Steve Kerr was getting frustrated, answering questions about him. He's like, I don't know. I thought he was going to play today. I guess he's not. And play by meaning scrimmaging. All these little things, right? And then the noise starts developing on the outside, right? It's, oh, hey, there's chatter.
The narratives.
There's chatter in the locker room that people aren't happy, this, that, and the third. Okay.
KD doesn't want to help the team. He's out of here.
All that stuff. Then
all the rumors.
The next thing you know, he practices on, what's today? Today's Tuesday, so game 5 was yesterday, Monday. He practices on Sunday, and then it's like, okay, he'll be upgraded to questionable for the game. Then it's, okay, he goes to shoot around on Monday. He's still a game time decision. Then it's, okay, he's playing, no minutes restrictions, the whole 9. And we saw what we saw. And it's unfortunate because now the big thing is what's the, who do we blame? What's the situation? And I know we're going to get to that because I'm a firm believer and I'm going to walk everybody through the timeline. It's pretty detailed of all the sequence of events that got us to this point. But where we are is an unfortunate moment because we now have what most of us fear, which is he suffered an Achilles. And the thing about the Achilles injury is the calf wasn't right. So as most people know about the human body, and I'm not a doctor, but when one part isn't functioning well, you tend to overcompensate on other parts of your body. Well, if you overcompensate somewhere else, what's going to happen to that part of your body? Well, it's going to get injured, obviously, right? And the calf and the Achilles, that whole thing stretches down the back of your leg, right? So the calf strain was way worse than what everyone anticipated. And as I said last time, there's no such thing as a calf strain. Any type of strain in muscles is a tear. It's what level of tear. Is it a big tear or a little tear, right? Clearly, they thought it was a small one. It turned out to be a bigger one. Now the whole Achilles looks like potentially has ruptured or popped, which is completely problematic, right? And we're talking about a player who is top 10 all time, who now we're going to get robbed of at least 1 full year of his prime and likely 2. And as good as he is, and I think he's the best basketball player in the world, he's never going to be the same when he comes back. And that is the shame for him, obviously, because that's who matters, not us. That's the shame for him, and then us as the viewing fans, that's what stinks for us.
Was Kobe the same?
No, but and Kobe was also older, right? So not only was he not the same, he was also older. So, yeah, look, Durant's 30, 31, but there is no history of anybody coming back from that injury and being better. None. Because what the Achilles saps you of when it's ruptured and when you're recovering from it, all your cutting and explosiveness, right? That's what makes him so special at 7 foot, is the ability to do that. Yes, that jump shot is still wet and pretty. And like I said, he'll come back and still be good because he's 7 feet tall and, you won't be able to block his shot. But that ability that he has to gain separation off the crossover, right? Cut to the lane, although that won't be there anymore at the same level. And that is what separated him and made him so great. And that's a shame.
Okay, well, let me talk to you about this a little bit. So here's where the story has some holes to some fans and to me personally. Yeah. We have KD come out. He doesn't play for 30 days. Mm-hmm. We don't know much about his condition besides the calf, this and that. Yep. But he comes out. They say it's a game time decision, and then they say he's playing with no minutes restriction. Mm-hmm. When is the last time that you heard there was not even a minutes restriction?
Never.
Okay, Boogie came back after missing a year and had a severe minutes restriction. He played 8 games in his first game back, okay?
About 8 minutes, yeah.
So right there is a red flag to me, okay? Yeah. So which leads me to my next question. Who is to blame for this? And who is somebody to blame for this? Because the Warriors organization seems to have a lot of holes in the way that they've handled this. We have Bob Myers, don't get me wrong. I'm not questioning his credibility. I'm not questioning anything about him. But he comes out and he cries in front of the press.
Right.
And he comes out for an update, but doesn't give us an update. He just comes out with, no offense, a sentimental kind of tribute to Kevin Durant. Like, we lost him forever. But what is the deal? Who is to blame if there's anyone to blame? Charles Barkley came out and said
he blames the Warriors.
That the Warriors organization as a whole is to blame. So tell me about this. Weigh in on this.
As with any story, it's never one person or one thing. There are multiple parties involved and quote unquote to blame. But I'm going to play a little bit of that Bob Myers sound from last night.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
I thought it was very interesting.
Play it back.
Kevin had it's an Achilles injury. I don't know the extent of it. He'll have an MRI tomorrow. Prior to coming back, he went through 4 weeks with our medical team, and it was thorough, and it was experts and multiple MRIs and multiple doctors, and we felt good about the process. He was cleared to play tonight. That was a collaborative decision. I don't believe there's anybody to blame, but I understand this world, and if you have to, you can blame me. I run our basketball operations department, and let me tell you something about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant loves to play basketball, and the people that questioned whether he wanted to get back to this team were wrong. And I'm not here to... He's one of the most misunderstood people. He's a good teammate. He's a good person. It's not fair.
So that was Bob, and obviously, Bob was very emotional. And I want to be clear about something. I don't know Bob personally, but I've had random just like, hey, how's it going interactions with him. And from everything I hear from people that I know, Bob's a good guy, and those were genuine feelings about a player that is part of his team.
Okay.
But here is where, to your point, holes in the story, what's going on, etc. So before Bob came out, Steve Kerr was doing his post-game presser, and he was asked about, what do you say after a win like this? He was like, on the one hand, it's an amazing accomplishment by our guys to gut this out. So a tremendous win, but a tremendous loss on the other hand because we lost Kevin for the series and for the year. And Anthony Slater, beat writer for the Warriors from The Athletic, asked him, Steve, knowing what you know now, in hindsight, would you have played Kevin tonight? And Steve's response was, yeah, I'm going to leave you to Bob to answer those questions. Right when he said that, antennas and flags went up.
Yeah.
As a former PR professional and someone who understands spin, and so as a media professional now knows when they're getting spun, we're getting spun. This is PR playbook 101. The Warriors don't want 75 people from the organization talking about this. They want one message and one voice, and they said, okay, for lack of a better term, Bob, you were the lightning rod here. You're the one that's going to have to go to this press conference, take all the arrows, answer all the questions, because we don't want Steve talking about it. We don't want Joe Laker talking about it. No, you're the guy. As head of basketball operations, you're going to get prepped. Ray Ritter, our head of PR, is going to prep you with what you know, and this is how you're going to have to answer the questions. And so that's sort of that one piece of it, right? So Bob was emotional as well. What was he emotional about? Obviously, he feels a certain way about Kevin Durant. Now, people are speculating. Is he feel guilty, et cetera, what have you? Look, there's human. There's, for sure, if you ask Bob Myers, do you feel somewhat responsible for this? In an honest moment, he will tell you yes, because as he said, it was a collaborative decision. Who was it collaborative with? Was it with just you and Kevin's team, Kevin and Rich? Were the doctors involved? Were Kevin's doctors involved? Who was collaborating on this? We don't know.
Well, here's what gets me with the collaborative decision comment.
Right.
Okay, I get it. A teams, whatever, collaborative decision. But going on to that court that night, who knew Kevin Durant was in what condition he was in?
Right.
Who knew how he really felt? Who knew the extremity of the injury at that point in the game, the 30-day point where could he have really returned? And which begs the question, you're down 3-1, but if you were tied series or if you were leading, or if you were up 3-1, would Kevin have come back? Would Kevin have come back, or was this a desperation move?
And so now we're getting into the speculation about, was he pressured? Was he coerced? What were all
Did he coerce himself? Was he pressuring himself? Was the team pressuring him? Was the front office pressuring him? We obviously will never know.
What were all the reasonings? But
still.
We won't ever know, but I will tell you this. The stories, when they come out, and they're going to come out.
The tea is going to be hot, baby.
And we're going to know all what's going on.
Whether it's the tell-all book, the series, or whether it's the documentary of Kevin Durant's injury coming to light, it's going to be good.
We're going to have something. But what I want to do right now is I want to kind of go through how we got here, the timeline, what's going on.
Take us through.
And, bear with us, folks, a little bit long, but I think it's really important that we kind of understand how we got here. So I don't know if you remember, when the Warriors came to play Brooklyn in late October, it was a Sunday again, the 28th.
Yeah.
I went to the practice the Saturday before, and that Friday night they played the Knicks, and that's when that whole Fergie troll video came out. And the team looked to be having so much fun and camaraderie and all this thing. And I wrote this nice long piece about how, the joy and togetherness is what's going to define this season for the Warriors, right? And I remember talking to Steph pregame, and he was like, man, you didn't even know that video was so funny. And, everybody's having a good time, right?
Yeah.
That's October 28th. 5-6 games later, Monday, November 12th, they're in Los Angeles playing the Clippers. No Steph Curry. He's out with injury. Late in the game, Draymond gets the ball, runs down the court, tries to make a play, gets the ball stripped from him. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant's clapping, and I'm like, yo, hey, give me the ball, man. I got this.
Oh, we all remember this one.
Right? That then erupted into
the now infamous fight.
The now infamous verbal spat between Draymond and KD, where Draymond said, hey, we don't need you. We won without you. You're a this, you're a that, you're soft, blah, blah. He's like, all this bubbling tension that apparently, from what you hear, but from the beat writers, that has been bubbling up around the team around Kevin's free agency decision erupted at that moment. Now, to be clear and to be fair, Kevin Durant has all the right in the world to exercise his free agency however he wants.
Absolutely,
if he wants
it's
to do,
his life.
If he wants to do one and done deals, cool. Guess what? the Warriors could say no and not sign him to those 1-and-1 deals.
Yeah.
But of course, they're not going to do that because it's Kevin Durant we're talking about,
Oh,
right?
he's a 7-foot sniper.
Right.
So
they deal with it, right?
Yeah.
But that caused a lot of frustration because Draymond and other guys feel like, well, we're the core guys. Why are they bending around backwards for you? Blah, blah, blah. And again, it's pecking order. Understanding Draymond, that's all well and good, but you're not Kevin Durant, bro. Like, I get it. You were one of the founding fathers. You, Steph, Clay, but you ain't KD.
Really quick, though, you know what you know what Draymond is that Kevin Durant is not?
What?
What do they call them? A psychic? A predictor of the future? Because it seems like what he was saying is happening right now.
No, look.
Just saying, but go ahead, as you were.
And throughout the course of the year, that was the narrative that dogged this team all season. Whenever they didn't play well, it was they're all feeling about Kevin Durant's pending free agency. Ethan Strauss, beat writer for The Athletic, who covers the Warriors, wrote that infamous piece, where he said there's concern inside the Warriors organization that Kevin Durant is going to leave via free agency. And remember, then shortly after that, the Knicks had made those moves to get all that cap space cleared up. Kevin went on radio silence, didn't talk to the media for 10, 12 days, right?
Which I came down on
Which
him
is fine,
hard for.
and we discussed that. We can talk about your boy Kyrie and his issues too, if you want to really go there.
Oh, well, that might be a long time because everybody knows how I feel about Kyrie.
But the point being that then Kevin lashed out at Ethan, right, saying that, hey, you're out here every day. You come in here, you rile up my teammates, you rile the fans. I'm talking about free agency. And Kevin's big thing was like, why aren't we talking about basketball? Why is it constantly, what am I doing in free agency? What's going on, right? And to Ethan's credit and to the beat writer's credit, look, where he's going in free agency is a story, right? He is arguably the best player in the league. Where you go has a seismic shift about what happens in this league.
Especially when you're Kevin Durant.
Right.
Yes.
So people want to know.
Yes.
However, as I said on previous podcasts, Kevin could have nipped this in the bud beginning of the season, making a statement saying, I know my free agency is a topic of conversation, but I'm not going to address free agency until the season is over. If anyone asks me questions about free agency, I'm going to say, not answering questions about free agency. And then I'm just going to stop. If you ask that question, I'm going to move on and say, next question. Eventually, they would stop because he's not talking about it. But every 2 seconds, it's, what about this? Where's he going? And all the speculation. And mind you, the speculation had to be coming from somewhere, right? So, hey, Kevin, maybe tell your agent Rich Kleiman to stop talking to people in the media behind the scenes, right? Because it's coming from somewhere. Someone's talking it, right? Or he says in that preseason, what he should have said was, if you do not hear directly from me, it's nonsense, right? Hey, that could solve the problem. Either way, that's what goes on. So that is sort of the lingering undercurrent that's hanging over this whole team, right? Okay, cool. They start playing better. They kind of get into the second half of the season, what have you. They go into the playoffs. The Clippers are giving them trouble, right? But they're playing the kind of basketball that Steve Kerr and they all want them to play, right? Which is that free-flowing ball movement. Everybody touches it, all that. Then you remember that press conference because they're down to the Clippers. And Steve Kerr's like, no, we need Kevin to shoot the ball 20 to 30 times a game. And Kevin's like, well, but I thought it was about ball movement and all that. Now you want me to do what you don't like, which is me isoing the ball and whatever. He's like, and that was the whole infamous, I'm not going to get into a one-on-one matchup with Patrick Beverly. I'm Kevin Durant. Like, you know who I am. Y'all knew who I am, right? And then from that point on, that's when he went full scorched earth assassin mode and was the best player in the league, right? Just dominating everybody.
Arguably. Put the arguably in front of it.
Facts.
You know how I feel about LeBron James?
Listen,
do you want me to fight you on this camera right now?
What's LeBron James doing?
Listen. He's getting ready for the next season, all right?
Space Jam 2.
That's right, because he has other things he needs to do.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Point being, right? So then we go through, they win that series, they're playing the Rockets, the matchup that everybody's looking forward to. Warriors win the first 2 games, Kevin Durant's on a roll. Hey, we're good money, good to go. Rockets go home, they win 2 in a row. It's tied at 2. That pivotal game 5, May 8th. Durant gets hurt. Remember Reggie Miller on the telecast. That's an Achilles. I mean, and Reggie and his hyperbole, but that's what he yells out. That's the Achilles. They go back. We find out Warriors PR comes out. It's not the Achilles. It's a calf strain, a mild calf strain. Kevin Durant already had a mild
calf strain, something he's dealt with before.
Right.
And not taken 30 days plus off and been rehabbing behind closed doors and this and that. So,
well, no, rehab always takes place behind closed doors.
Whatever, though.
Never in front of the team.
You know what I mean? Like,
always
no
updates.
updates. We have nothing. It's
right.
cold turkey.
Well, because
out
remember
there.
it was, we'll evaluate it in 10 days. So 10 days came. They evaluated. It's going to take a little bit longer than we thought.
Yeah, like dropping breadcrumbs leading to a path of nowhere.
But that's the point. And so now here's where it gets interesting.
Holes. That's where the holes
Here's where
start.
it gets interesting. Clearly, and this is me just reading the tea leaves, the Warriors had one idea about the injury. I'm assuming Kevin had his own team in there taking a look, and they had another thought process about the injury.
Okay.
And that's when some disconnect might have started happening, right? About where it is, what happens, blah, blah, blah. But
let him come back. Let him not come back.
But what happens, though? They win that game off the emotion, right? And then game 6, right? Steph goes crazy, whatever. They win. They beat the Rockets, which in hindsight, now that we know the infighting that was going on with the Houston Rockets, doesn't really bode well. That wasn't that great of a win anyway. But
there's that.
We'll move that to the side.
Yeah.
Then the Warriors get the best possible opponent they could ever imagine in the Western Conference Finals, the Portland Trailblazers. Look, I love Dame. I love CJ. They are not a conference finals caliber team. They're just not.
No.
The way in which
you saw that.
The way in which
they had moments
that the schedule broke out, they won one more game, and what that meant was the seeding that they got. It meant they would avoid Houston and or Golden State until the conference finals. So they had an easier path to get to the conference finals. And sure enough, what happened? They got swept in 4. But those 4-game sweeps were a harbinger of things to come, because the Warriors had to come back in every one of those 4 games, right? The Blazers had double-digit leads in the second half of every one of those games and make a comeback against, again, a Portland team that was not that good. Draymond's out here puffing his chest, hitting threes, whooping and hollering. And what was
Draymond hitting threes? That's when you know you could just,
what was the narrative? We don't need KD. This is the same team that won 73 games. We're just as good. Everybody's getting on talk shows and their podcasts saying, hey, remember, this team won 73 games without Kevin Durant. If he leaves in free agency, they're going to be the same team they were.
He has one foot out the door anyway, who cares?
Life is good.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the NBA Finals.
Oh, let's brew the tea, honey.
And again, the thought process was, he'll be back for the finals. Not sure yet, but we think he'll be back. Okay, maybe by game 2, midway through the finals.
If they need him,
Again, they're down 1-0, no big deal. We haven't seen it. 1-1, okay.
We're not sweating yet.
But we're feeling cool. We did our job. We got the split. And as I
Yeah.
said, they went back home, got blitzed in 2 games, down 3-1. All the pressure starts coming. And I really want to call attention to specifically this article written by Tim Kawakami of The Athletic. He's the editor-in-chief of The Athletic Bay Area. And it's honestly, the title of the article is exactly when the Warriors need Kevin Durant the most. Nobody seems to know exactly what's happening. All right. So fair enough. Pretty innocuous headline, right? But throughout the article, he talks about how the Warriors are constantly waiting on Durant, right? And it's the tenor and tone in which he's using, right? And it's this idea that he's suggesting that, well, Kevin's not doing everything he can be doing to get himself prepared, right? So he goes, about a week ago, the Warriors thought he was on the verge of coming back. Durant was a big presence in the locker room all that week while they were in Toronto. He was working out. Hopes were raised. The best player in the league seemed set to rejoin the action. Everything sounded on track for him to return by Game 4 or Game 5 at the very latest. But now, the Warriors are down 3-1, and they're still waiting. It's almost too late. I asked Steve Kerr after Friday's loss, has the team gotten too caught up in waiting for Durant? No, I don't think so, Kerr said. Our guys internally see him every day. We're aware of his progress and we're aware of the limitations of where he is. So there's hope. There's been hope that he could do it, that he could come back. But it is what it is. The guys are playing. I don't think there's any disappointment. Here we go. Kawakami writes, but there are signals. There are hints that something changed somewhere in the last few days, maybe involving the recovery of the doctors or Durant's decision-making process.
In the last few days of your 30-day recovery.
But notice what he says. Maybe involving the recovery or the doctors or Durant's decision-making process, right? Okay. And it's hard to get a real read from Durant because he dropped back mostly out of sight in the last few days, and he doesn't sit on the bench during the games the way that Thompson and Looney did when they missed Game 3. Which
right there. You didn't need to say that about Thompson and Looney.
Thank you.
Because the injuries are completely different.
Thank you. Number one. Number two, there's this attitude about, and again, this is part of that narrative filtering out, Kevin's not on the bench with his teammates. But everyone talked about how at halftime, he's in the locker room when the guys come back, he's saying to Steph and Clay, hey, when you do the split action off the pick and roll, this is what I'm seeing. They're coming across on the weak side. So next time, get the ball up maybe a half second early. He's giving them instruction when he sees the game from the back.
Which is extremely helpful.
So if I'm a teammate, what do I prefer? Him on the bench, rah-rah cheering me, or when I get back, hey, what an all-world, all-league player tells me what he sees from watching the game.
Observing from, outside of the arena a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Here we go. The larger question, has Durant fought to get back into action the way Thompson and Looney did for Game 4? It is unclear. It's impossible to know. Maybe he has.
Well, that sentence right there is problematic because what do you mean by fought back? What do you mean by that? Looney's injury and Thompson's injury were completely different than Durant's. So,
collarbone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Collarbone, hamstring.
Don't get me wrong. Looney, tough as nails. But collarbone, and also it's the type of player. What Looney is required to do versus what Kevin Durant would be required to do are night and day.
Exactly. So there's so many things wrong with all of those sentences because I say they're opinions. They are opinions. So is this article factual or is this article going off of, let's just dissect the Warriors' issues all at once and not tell the facts?
And Kawakami goes on. There is broad context to this, of course. Durant has been with this team.
There's his safety net sentence.
He's been with team for 3 seasons, and yet offense still seems slightly unattached to the main Warriors' sensibility. They are a collective. He is largely independent. They've committed to staying together, and he is open to leaving as a free agent this summer. They run a connected, free-flowing offense, and he sometimes asks for and runs his own version. Of course, Durant has been absolutely worth it. He's so good. He's proven so much by winning 2 Finals MVPs the previous 2 seasons. He obviously was worth waiting for in these playoffs. Maybe he'll make it back for Game 5, play brilliantly, and lead a charge to a championship. Maybe he won't make it back, and the Warriors will win anyway. It's impossible to know. It's probably a bit cynical to even attempt to analyze, but just ask yourself this. If Thompson or Looney or Curry or Green or Andre Iguodala had this injury 30 days ago, would the Warriors still be waiting for them? And that, the way he ended that article, suggests that, again, this whole idea that Kevin has said all the time, where is this coming from? I'm not part of this team. I'm not part of this team. Kawakami's stoking the flames with that article. He's fanning them, and he is throwing gasoline on it.
It's problematic because you cannot compare anybody's situation. Kevin Durant's injury had nothing to do with what Clay and Looney's injuries
were.
And
he was the first person, Kawakami was the first person.
The recovery process wasn't even as long.
He was the first person to report that there's frustration growing around the Warriors about Kevin Durant's...
He was the first to report?
Right. Kawakami was. Then, Brian Windhorst said the same thing. Ramona Shelburne said the same thing.
Okay, I'm going to say this right now. And I know you're probably thinking one thing about me because, okay, number one, I haven't been the nicest person to Kevin Durant. I haven't, okay?
But it's fine. I don't need you to be nice to Kevin Durant. That's not...
When it comes down to this situation, I haven't been the nicest person to Kevin Durant. I get it. But I'm talking about this situation right now.
Right.
What I'm seeing with Kevin Durant is the fact that it's a real life situation. If you step out of the situation of sports a little bit, it's a double-edged sword when it comes to Kevin Durant. Yeah. He's damned if you do, damned if you don't, whatever the hell that situation.
You said it right.
Sentence
Damned
is.
If you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. He's soft if he doesn't come back, but then when he comes back and he gets injured, everybody's praying for him. Right. I want to say something that Jalen Rose said today when he was analyzing everything because I really agreed with it. You agreed with it. We talked off camera. We liked it. It was something like, they'll bring flowers to your funeral, but they won't bring soup when you're sick.
Yeah.
Because that really struck a note with me with Jalen Rose because I loved his analyzation of this situation because it's true. Yeah. It's true. People are coming and backing Kevin Durant now. What? Because he's hurt and they feel bad and this and that? No, look at the situation. Everything is a narrative. Do you realize this? I cover entertainment and sports.
It's the same thing.
And it is the same exact thing.
No
there
difference.
is a narrative with everything.
Yep.
You need to take a step back and realize that there's more to this than different things.
Absolutely.
Right?
Look,
right?
Jalen, you are 100% correct. Jalen hit this on the head.
I'm so angry.
So we now have all this faux outpouring of support for Kevin Durant, and it's BS. And it's because, again, there is this belief from fans writ large that players, in order for, and I'm going to count us, even though we're journalists, but like we're fans of the league.
We are, yeah.
that in order for you to prove yourself to us, you have to give us a pound of your flesh. When you do that, that's when we then say, okay, you're now worthy of whatever admiration we're going to give you, and you're now worthy of like our respect and whatever.
And we talk about that all the time.
Shut the F up with that bull, you know what, okay? They don't owe us a mumbling thing.
They're
okay?
human beings. Yes, they have incredible talents, and their limbs are extremely longer than ours.
All that.
But still.
Listen, Kevin Durant doesn't need to prove jack to anybody. Least of all, what? You're questioning this guy's toughness? Clearly, he's tough and he cares about this team because he went out there to play knowing he was not healthy. And you saw what his former teammate Kendrick Perkins said. I told KD, if you're not 100%, do not play. Mm-hmm. He did anyway. Now I'm mad at the Warriors. So bringing it all back full circle to the timeline and who knew what.
Who did know what?
Kevin Durant made that decision to play. They didn't force him and say, you have to play.
I believe that, but did he feel the pressure to play?
Now,
yes, he did.
I will say, based on this is what listen, I'm not going to sit here and say this was nefarious action and a conspiracy by the Warriors. But what I will say is they know who Kevin Durant is. Kevin Durant, and we've discussed this, everyone knows this, is someone who literally reads and consumes everything that is said about him. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And when he hears people saying he's not committed, he's soft, whatever, and funny, who did Kawakami said sources around the Warriors say there's growing frustration? He either made it up or someone from the Warriors organization said that to him. And again, he wasn't the only one. Ramona and Windhorn said the same thing. So either the three of them are lying, which I don't believe they are,
no, or
someone from the Warriors leaked that out to them. So what does that mean? They knew Kevin would hear that and be like, man, I got to go. I want to be. And now, on the flip side, Kevin is an A1 super plus hyper competitive athlete. You don't become the best player or arguably the best player if you're not competitive. So he wants to be out there. But the Warriors, as an organization, they have to be like, you know what, Kevin, this is not really in your best interest to be out here. Damned if we don't win this title or not, but you're not healthy. But here's where the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists can come on. Well, if the Warriors were so convinced he wasn't going to re-sign with them anyway, they figured, well, who cares if he gets hurt or not, right? Let him go out there, let him play. If we win, cool. If we don't, if he doesn't, you know.
Don't get me wrong. That's a complete
Again,
real...
I'm not saying that the Warriors are a nefarious organization, and that's what they did. But if you are a conspiracy theorist...
No, that's definitely a real thought that I had. But listen to this. And this is me putting my human hat on, stepping outside of the box a little bit here. If I'm Kevin Durant... and I'm hurt, but I know there is a chance I could come back, play some minutes, kind of help this team propel to a win, okay? And I know my team is down 3-1. Game is on the line.
Right.
Series could be over tonight. I would choose to come back just because I would be afraid, and this is just me putting my human hat on. And maybe not me, but somebody would be afraid if this team loses, the blame is coming here.
But here's the thing.
The blame is coming here on my shoulders.
What you said is so beautiful right there, Jenna. Because
thank you. I hope it's not going to turn around and be ugly.
Well, because what you said, that's a human...
It's a human thing. And I'm trying to put myself in that situation. Like, I wouldn't want to not be there and say they lose. Damn, that's coming back on me.
Well, do you know what Kevin Durant is? Besides being an excellent basketball player? A human. Yeah.
And we know Kevin Durant, out of all people, is extremely human, and he shows it. Yeah. Wears his heart in his sleeve. He's not Kawhi Leonard walking around with a poker face like Lady Gaga.
Funny that you mentioned Kawhi.
Yeah, laugh about that. Even our producer Raul is cracking up back there.
Don't be giving her no extra.
He's fueling me.
No, please don't fuel her. She's not that funny.
Fueling me. Hey.
Funny that you mentioned.
Stick to the business.
Funny that you mentioned Kawhi Leonard.
Oh.
Because let's remember. Last year, when Kawhi was a member of the San Antonio Spurs.
Where he played 9 games and now he's in the NBA Finals, saying.
When you were hating on him.
Okay,
hold on. And we'll get to this later on. But Kawhi was basically like, I don't trust you guys. I don't think you handled my situation right. I'm telling you that
heck yeah,
my body is not right. And all you're telling me is, Kawhi, you're cleared to play. Again, and that's what Bob said. We heard that in the sound. Kevin was cleared to play. What does cleared to play actually mean?
Like he's all right? Like we can get 5 good minutes in and before he tears something?
Play 45 minutes?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
Play 11 of the first played 12 of the first 14
Exactly,
minutes.
yeah.
ESPN's Rachel Nichols was walking out of the arena with Steve Kerr yesterday, and Steve Kerr said to her, Rachel, the doctor said he couldn't make the injury any worse.
Well, that's weird. They said Looney couldn't, and he was grinding his teeth the whole time in pain. So this is weird.
Once again,
what's the narrow line
I am
here?
not a medical doctor, but
I'm not smart enough to be one.
If you have an injury and you play high-level basketball or any athletic activity on said injury, common sense would tell me you can make it worse. But they're saying no.
Nah, a wall just goes up. A fake wall just goes up where it stops the injury.
Again, I don't know but this just doesn't make any sense.
Like we said, holes in the story.
And with Bob
holes
coming
in the
out
story.
with his tears and and again,
don't get me wrong, he could be in the next Oscar-winning film with those damn tears.
I
believe them, but
yes,
come on now.
I think Bob was legit, but look, I think a lot of that stems from this idea that we might have messed up here. We might have allowed the narrative, because again, here's what the Warriors did not do, and this is what they did for Klay. They wrapped their arms around Klay in that way. Hey, we know Klay's a warrior. We know he's a fighter. We got to hold him out to protect himself.
Yeah, because he's like a second Steph Curry on that team.
How come that wasn't what they said about Durant, though?
Because he has 1 foot out the door, allegedly, because he's going to be a free agent, and they're worried about losing their big guy. So it's just a double-edged sword for everyone. It really is. And it sucks. And back to being human, they're going to treat people the way they want to treat them in certain situations. If he wasn't a free agent,
right?
do you think things would have been handled a little different?
If he was under
Jarod?
contract, it'd be vastly different.
Interesting, yeah. He'd probably be in an ice bath, laying in Cabo somewhere. We don't need him. We could do this. We Gucci.
If he was under contract, they'd be like, Kevin, we don't want to risk your long-term health.
Yeah.
All good. Listen,
Yeah.
again, I'm not sitting here and saying this was a nefarious plan.
Not at all.
Or
but
a conspiracy.
there are holes in the
Right.
story.
Something doesn't add up here. Something rotten in Denmark, as they say.
Yeah, we're definitely on different pages with that. What's rotten in Denmark?
Never mind. You're too young to get it. Moving on.
Yeah.
Look,
segue us in.
Warriors won the game by 20. Let's not lose sight of that. I'm sorry. Warriors hit 23s. Excuse me.
I was gonna say, was I drunk? No.
Warriors,
Okay.
Warriors hit 23s.
There you go.
12 more than the Raptors, right? I mean, they were on fire. But guess what?
Were.
They won by 1 freaking point.
Okay. Well.
So if I'm the Raptors, listen. Yeah, I'm mad that we didn't close that game out.
But we coming back, Ski.
I'm not worried because, again, over the course of these 5 games, I, as the Toronto Raptors, or we as the Toronto, have proven we are consistently better than you, and we've outplayed you throughout this series. Hence why we're up 3-2.
And they still got the lead going into next game. Yes, it's at Oracle, but let's talk about...
With no Kevin Durant.
No Kevin Durant.
So,
Guarantee no Kevin Durant.
For the rest of this series.
Exactly. So we're not sweating about that anymore. So
Nope.
Speaking of that, let's move on to the Toronto Raptors really quick here.
Yep.
Do we believe they blew Game 5? Because there were some mistakes down the stretch.
There were. Look,
There were.
I think the big thing was...
Couple timeouts?
When they were cooking and Kawhi went on that 10-0 run and they were +6. And Nurse called that timeout, and Nurse said, I wanted to give my guys a little blow, a little energy. Look, Nick, this is...
You want to give them a blow of energy? You gave the Warriors a blow of energy.
This is the NBA Finals. They had 3 minutes and change to go. You got to ride that out. Unless the Warriors made a couple stops in a row. You were up 6, and Kawhi was cooking. Push that as far as you can get it.
Well, going off of that, can I ask you a little bit of a kind of general question for the kids at home?
Yeah.
When you're cooking something, Jarod, a pizza, a cake... something in the
I
microwave,
don't turn
do you
the oven off.
stop it halfway through?
No.
Do you? And you say, let me eat this raw because it's going to be great.
Let that thing bake, man.
Because we're definitely going to not get sick from this. Let
that thing bake, baby.
Yeah, that is what Nick Nurse did not let Kawhi Leonard do on a cooking streak and the rest of his team that was feeding off of Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, the crowd energy had shifted. They
Thank
were loud.
you.
They're ready to roll again.
Exactly. You're on your home court.
You're on your home court.
About to throw this pen if it wasn't so nice in this room.
You had 3 minutes and change left. Listen, Kawhi turned on to that switch mode where he knew. You saw him. He was like, this is it.
He
seized
no facial
the
expressions.
moment.
He's still on the switch mode.
He was ready. He seized it. That was their... And look, all that being said, Warriors came back, tied up 2 threes. Look, Draymond, again, the backcourt violation, Boogie with the moving screen. I mean, they almost threw it away themselves. So did the Raptors blow it? No. Was that a golden opportunity that they let slip through their fingers? Yes. right? So let's argue semantics, whatever, but that's what I said. Look,
Hey.
we killed Nurse about the timeouts, but
We did.
But overall, he's coached a hell of a series. So
Heck yeah, I told you, and I won't take this back.
He's your
is
coach of the
my
year.
coach of the year,
No
Nick
denying
Nurse.
that.
No denying it. Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about a little bit of predictions here for
Yep.
Game 6. We
Yep.
are going to Oracle.
Yep.
Okay. We have the wraps up. Still 3-2.
Yep.
Definitely no Kevin Durant. What
Yep.
is your prediction? Game 6.
Raptors win that game.
I have it too.
Yeah, Raptors win. Look,
And I'm kind of pissed I didn't bet money on any of this because your girl surprisingly had it for once.
The Raptors.
She had it. I'd be able to pay my bills a little bit easier these
Oh
days.
my God,
I'm just saying.
Raptors. They're not afraid of Oracle.
Nope.
Clearly, they won 2 games in a row. They're not afraid of this Warriors team.
No.
They're just not.
No.
Now, look, as I said, the Warriors are the champs, and they're the champs for a reason. You are going to have to knock them out. They're not going to, right? So when
And the Splash Brothers have to be not slightly clicking on all cylinders.
When Nick Nurse and they had them on the ropes in Game 5, they were wobbly. Had them, you can't back away. You have to go for the kill shot and end it. And I think Nick Nurse knows that now going into Game 6. When they're on the ropes, he's not going to pull that foot off the gas.
He knows.
He's gonna
he knows now.
He's going to push down on the accelerator
And you know what?
and close it out.
That all comes with your first time coaching in the NBA Finals.
Absolutely. Look, and again, I'm going to reiterate.
With Drake rubbing your shoulders.
I'm going to reiterate it. The Raptors have been the better team from start to finish.
They have?
Outside of 2 or 3 quarters,
Yeah.
the Raptors have been the better team. And, I doubt we get another 20 or 42 shooting game from the Warriors from 3.
Nah.
That was their one. And yes, they won it, but
Because it was also the adrenaline high
Right.
of them being
Right.
passionate about Durant's
Right.
injury and different things like that. Splash Brothers
and that's
clicking.
not to say that they won't have passion back at Oracle. But again, after that initial hoopla wears down, you got to just play basketball. The Raptors have played better basketball than the Warriors.
Yeah, and now it's going to come down to it. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And one last thing about the Raptors, too, because it's kind of annoyed me. And I've been on a tough streak with Kyle Lowry. That end of game could have been buzzer beater wrapping the
Draymond
series.
blocked it.
I get it that Draymond blocked it, but would Jimmy Butler have missed that shot?
But Jimmy,
I'm just asking.
But the point is the shot got blocked. So
No, I get it, but
so
like
anybody would have gotten the shot blocked because here's what happened on that play. Andre freelanced and he went to trap Kawhi, forced him to swing it, and then Draymond knew where it was going next. So he closed out to again. It doesn't matter who was playing. That was their play, right? Andre freelanced. Draymond knew what was going to happen next. So because again, one of the things that we give Draymond a lot of gruff for all his whatever, but Draymond is one of the best defenders that's ever played. He's super high basketball IQ. He knew the ball was going to end up in the corner for that 3. He closed out, got his finger on it, and blocked it.
Very
And
impressive.
as Kyle said, he's like, I wouldn't have missed a shot like that. Draymond blocked it. Like
I didn't realize though.
Yeah.
From when you see it from the back, it didn't look
it
blocked.
yeah, and Kyle said it. Draymond blocked it. He's like, I wouldn't hit the side of a backboard. He's like, because Kyle's having a good game. So
Kyle was having a good game. Good
Here's
for
what it is.
him.
It happens.
He's playing with 9 fingers. You got to do what you got to do.
that's what it is.
All right, let's move on to a little bit of free agency talk here, seeing as KD could be out for the next season.
Yeah.
Now, what does this mean for free agency for KD now? Because, everybody's pretty much lined up cap space for him.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
It's almost like I feel almost like sacrilegious, like talking about it, right? Because
I
look,
know.
as much as we talked about all what's going on, the reality of this is that as basketball fans, as basketball consuming public, the reality is, people, we are getting robbed of watching prime years of one of the 10 greatest basketball players of all time. Like that's what's happening to us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
An Achilles injury will knock him out for a full season. He's not playing. He's not playing at all next season.
And we spoke about it. When you come back from an Achilles, you're not the same person.
You're just not.
You're not. It's impossible.
The track record for that injury in the history of this league, no one has come back better.
No.
Nobody.
No.
Or even the same as they were. Now, he's 7 foot tall. He's got that wet jumper, so he'll still be good. He'll still likely be an all-star. Hell, he'll still likely be some level of all-NBA.
Must be nice.
But that perennial MVP type,
oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't think. And that, honestly, that's sad. That's extremely sad that we're not going to get to see that. And, a lot of people talk about, well, we don't know. He came back from the Jones fracture. He did. A Jones fracture is a bone thing. That is very different than a tendon thing. Completely different.
Absolutely.
And so, look, the reality of all that is, though, and I've talked to a couple people and I've heard from a couple sources that the teams that have cap space would still very much max him out because they're like, look, all that being said, Kevin Durant at like 80% of what he used to be is still better than the majority of this
Kevin
league.
Durant at 50,
right?
man.
So they're good. The question, though, now is, and we don't know, what does Kevin decide to do? Does he opt in and take that $35 million from Golden State and rehab with them? Or does he say, no, I kind of hate you guys' guts.
Well, I was just going to say, here's the thing. It depends on the relationship with the Warriors because, again, we don't know anything about it yet.
Right.
Hey, if he's bitter and this decision obviously hurt him, I'd
and
be
by the
out
way,
ski.
do you blame him for being bitter?
No. Unless
can't say I blame him.
And I don't penalize him for this, but unless he was the one who overrode everybody and said, "Listen, I'm in this game," and they all said, "No, Kevin, no."
And from what I doubt that was the case.
Yeah. So we have to see with that, and with him,
he had agency though. He definitely wanted to play.
Yeah, of course.
The Warriors' responsibility was to be like, no.
And the thing which is sad too, which is another double-edged sword here, is that even if he opted to play against everyone, it was with a pure heart, good intention. I want to be there for my team. Yeah. If we lose this game, at least I can say I was out there. I did what I could, and I was Kevin Durant through and through despite injury.
Listen, I love to give PSA for our listeners. PSA, kids. Team physicians, much like your HR department where you work.
Oh, my God.
They operate very similarly. No, they do. Hear me out.
Yeah.
You think they're there for you. In actuality, they are there to protect and do what is in the best interest of the company that they represent.
Yeah.
Stay woke, kids.
Stay woke, baby. Speaking of woke, let's bounce off of that and talk a little bit about players with their medical teams. Did you notice that now players are bringing in their own medical teams? They're not trusting the team staff, this and that, which, hey, I wouldn't. Look at Kawhi Leonard. Look at Kawhi Leonard. And you notice how Kawhi Leonard played in 9 games last season and then all of a sudden said, hey, no to the Spurs staff. And then now all of a sudden he's in the NBA Finals with the Raptors.
He did. Having
an MVP-like season and postseason.
Kawhi said this, and I believe he was talking to Rachel Nichols she did an interview for ESPN, and some of it aired on The Jump.
Yeah.
And he said, Kawhi, a big deal all season was made about this idea of load management. And it became a big joke. Everybody's laughing. Load management.
Yeah.
And Kawhi was like, if we didn't do that, we would not be here in the NBA Finals right now.
Exactly.
Why? Kawhi understands, knows his body, and says, look, with the way that this injury is and it's not fully recovered, I can't do back-to-backs. That's not happening. So if you want the best version of me and you want this to be optimized, we've got to work in concert with my medical team. Sure enough, look who's poised to win his second NBA Finals MVP, potentially joining only 2 men in the history of the NBA to win Finals MVPs for 2 different franchises. One guy you know very well, LeBron James.
Thank you.
The other guy, one of my faves, a man by the name of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Fun fact, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar once threw up while I was interviewing him.
Did he really?
Yes, that is a story for another time. I won't embarrass him. Good man, good man.
You already put it out there. Jeez.
No, he was ill that day.
But he powered through it.
He powered through it. He had a little stomach bug that day, but I have to say he had that interview with class. But again,
he was like, Jenna, I got to interview with you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's more of a cocktail talk. We'll have to get a drink to talk about that.
That makes sense though, right?
Yeah.
Players, this is that next level of player empowerment, right? Because again, these guys trade on their bodies and their ability to actually physically perform. Listen, if this is about me maximizing my contracts and doing what I need to do, how do I know that this team's got my best interest? And I don't know that.
And that's a little scary when I'm putting my body on the line out there. And we always preach about this, Jarod. This is your livelihood. This is what feeds my family. Some of these guys are straight off the street and they're not afraid to tell you that, they sacrifice everything to be here. So when they talk about in the game pressers and this and that, when they don't want to talk to media and this and that, think about that.
Listen, we're going to close it out like this. If I've got a choice between trusting the medical staff of the team that I work for that wants me to get out there and play so they can win games, or the medical team that I pay money to take care of me, I'm going to trust the ones that I pay money to because their incentives are a little bit different. That's just me. Call it cynical, call it whatever you want. Second thing being, back to Kevin Durant really quick, and I don't want to cast a whole big doom and gloom over this, but I'm actually legitimately worried about him because, you say what you want about Kevin Durant, he's sensitive, whatever. I don't care about all that stuff. Basketball is the one place where that man is happy when he's playing the game. You are now taking away his happy place for literally a full season plus, over a year. I am very concerned about what he's going to be doing when he's not rehabbing, in the sense of he's going to be online. I just don't know, and that worries me. And I hope that he's able to get insular with his team, his family, what have you, and help them keep him in a good place mentally, so that he's able to attack this the right way. Because again, basketball's his happy place, and you're taking his happy place away for a year plus, and that's sad and scary at the same time.
Well, as we wait for an update on Kevin Durant, his condition, we will be keeping tabs on that and definitely praying for him.
Absolutely.
And we will see
Prayers
y'all
up,
in a little bit.
Absolutely. Guys, don't forget, subscribe, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, 7 Footers
Pod. I was just going to tell you. Remind
Spotify,
them.
7 Footers Podcast, YouTube. We just streamed live. Hope you like it. The video will be up there so you can watch it in archives. And, we'll be back next week. And by then, we think we know. The finals the finals will be over. There will be a winner by the time we come back on next week. We both think it's the Raptors. And then we'll debrief that, and we'll get ready for the NBA draft.
Yes, let's do it. We're going to close this out. Thanks, guys.
Peace.